true that there's about 136 new items in there that are geared for taxes in one form or another? And also, isn't there a national sales tax embedded in there? I've been hearing this on the national talk shows.
I'm not aware of the national sales tax that's on there, but I don't believe there was anybody in Washington that read the bill before they passed it.
You're actually right. They don't even know what's in it.
So I don't believe they could sit here and tell us everything that's in that healthcare bill.
I think it came from like the Heritage Foundation, and it came out on the Sean Hannity show, so I'm thinking there must be some credibility. And as you said, there's probably all kinds of things buried here. They mentioned 136 different items.
Well, it's going to be a job killer. I mean, I've already talked to businesses who said they are laying off, because they don't, they're not certain of the effect that Obamacare will have. And, being a business person myself, I can tell you the importance of creating a climate for business that they want to invest, because businesses look at opportunity, and when you create the type of uncertainty that's been created by Washington and by the policies in Washington, that's what has the economy at a standstill right now. Even businesses that aren't doing poorly, many have said, listen, we're not going to expand, we're not going to hire anyone else, we don't know what the effect of Obamacare will be, we don't even know what the taxes will be next year, because they left Washington without extending the tax cuts. So we may be facing the largest tax increase in American history. Now, how, as a business, can you plan to expand or to hire? That type of uncertainty is the reason that the economy is stalling. It's the reason that unemployment remains high, because businesses are afraid of what this administration is doing, what Washington's doing, the regulations that they're putting down on business. And I'm going to tell you, this country will not be saved by Uncle Sam. It's going to be saved by moms and pops all across America. Small business, that's the backbone. It's amazing. We talked about the bailouts. CEOs walked away with giant bonuses, and the taxpayers walked away with the bill. But how many small businesses have that protection that if they go under, the government's going to bail them out?
Yeah, well, I think just to expand on that, I think I'm a small business owner as well, but the greatest hurdle you see with competing against China to the world is fair trade versus equal trade. Right? I mean, we're stuck with all these regulations that we abide by, EO, the Clean Water Act. I mean, these are all great regulations to put us on an even playing field.
Cap and trade.
Cap and trade.
I mean, here we are in northeastern Pennsylvania, of all places. We should never have a representative here in northeastern Pennsylvania that votes for cap and trade.
You say the intels are going across the ocean, it's because it's a lot less expensive. There is no regulation across the ocean. There's no health benefit to the employees of an overseas company.
Well, when you actually have a government that tells you they will pick and choose winners and losers, they will decide who's big and too big and who's not too big. That's a scary road that we're going down. That's a slippery slope, and I don't believe we should ever begin to go down that road where we have Washington deciding who's too big and who's not. I had an opportunity to serve on a United Nations advisory board, and there was one mayor from every country that they had a forum, and we met in Barcelona, Spain. And I had asked the State Department what they wanted me to talk about when we got to the forum, and they wanted me to talk about public-private partnerships, because many of the projects that we did in Hazleton, we used public-private partnerships to make them happy, because I believe that if there's private money in the project, it has a better chance to succeeding than if it's all public money. If it's just taxpayer money, I don't believe it has a good chance to succeed. So we used that formula to do some projects, and that's what they wanted me to talk about. So when I got there, I was amazed to hear what these other mayors from around the world talked about, what they needed or wanted to revitalize their communities and villages. The very first thing at the top of the list was clean water, which startled me because I didn't realize how many parts of the world they do not have clean water because they don't have clean, sanitary sewers. But after the water issue, the issue they talked about most was that if they could decentralize some of the power from their government, that they felt that their government had too much power, and that the local officials on a regional level and the local level did not have enough authority. They may have had the title as mayor or council or supervisors, but they really didn't have any say, and the central government had too much power. And I'm looking at the direction that America is going now, and I can't help but think that the very thing that other countries are trying to undo, it appears that that's the road of what we are trying to do, where we're giving more and more power to Washington, more and more power to central government, less and less power on the state level, on the local level. When we look at education, we're trying to educate children from Washington. It's not working. We have to let teachers teach in the classroom again. We've got to let doctors make decisions in the doctor's office again. We've got to let states and local boards realize what the problems are and how to fix it. And instead, we're taking that away and we're giving it to Washington. And that's something that I'm very concerned about. And I believe that it's a big part of why the economy is dragging. And now remember, Nancy Pelosi said that, I don't mean to be on Nancy Pelosi, but that's okay. But she's the speaker there, and she's setting the agenda. And, she said if they spent $800 billion, it would put Americans right back to work, and unemployment wouldn't go above 8%. And since that time, 2.7 million Americans lost their jobs. Unemployment went to 10%. And they're wondering in Washington why the economy's not going. And it's not going because of their interference. It's not going because Washington is doing the opposite. Washington needs to get out of the way and let people be entrepreneurs again. My wife and I, who are here, we started a little business on $29.95. It was really just a dream. That business grew to be the largest in Pennsylvania in 5 years, and when we sold it when I became mayor, it was the 6th largest of its kind in the country. That entrepreneurial spirit, I believe we are taking away from the next generation. Who will start a business right now? Who will take a chance right now to leave a job and go after a dream and start a new business? First of all, I don't even know if the banks would lend the money right now to start that business. And when you take away the entrepreneurial spirit from a country, that was what made this country so great. You're taking away innovation. Innovation happens when people take risks, when people take chances, when somebody has an idea and they go out and they try to make it happen. That's when innovation happens. And I was reading a study, a 2009 study, and they ranked the top 40 nations, industrialized nations, for innovative competitiveness. And the United States ranked 6th out of 40, which wasn't bad, but wasn't the best. But they ranked the same 40 nations for what they were doing to be innovative in the future. And the United States ranked dead last. And that's scary, that's frightening when we think of the next generation and what type of America are we leaving them, and who's going to invent things again. And I believe that it all starts with policies in Washington that handcuff people to the point where they're afraid to take a chance, they're afraid to take a risk.
How think you handle the lobbyists?
Well, I think the best way to handle them is term limits. Because what happens is people go to Washington and they get to know the lobbyists and the special interest groups better than they know the people in these town hall meetings. So if you're not there too long, and you have term limits, people, I believe people won't be afraid to go to Washington, do what's right for the people they represent, and then like the founding fathers wanted, go back to your community and serve your community and let others, not career politicians.
George Will has been writing about that forever. He's been
Well,
voted, but nobody's.
I'm going to lead by example, because I do support term limits, and I put a self-imposed term limit on myself when I'm elected. Because if we're going to go to Washington, it's nice to say it in a campaign, but if you're going to go to Washington, you have to lead by example. And so I won't be afraid to propose it, because I've already told the people here I'm going to do it myself.
The man you're going to beat in this coming election, Jaworski, he's the man that said, we asked for term limits, and what he said is, we've got term limits. In other words, when you go and vote, but we can't put anybody in there because we don't have the money. So that's another thing I want to ask, is we got to get a limit on all this money that's being spent, and people that are hurting in this United States could be helped. I bet you there's billions of dollars being spent right now on these elections.
Well, I can tell you from experience, it is very difficult to beat an incumbent who has been in Washington so long, especially when it's on the Financial Services Committee that can pick up the phone and get a lot of money from Fannie and Freddie and others that you're supposed to be watching and regulating. It's not easy to raise the money to be able to get your message to people in the district. You know, we've worked very hard doing town hall meetings, going to picnics, trying to be connected to the people, but you still need to get a message, whether it be through television, through radio, through newspapers, and unfortunately that takes money. And
Just to follow up, when you opened, like what made Scott Brown, people seeing from all over the country, what made him that extraordinary when he took that seat? What was the secret there? He didn't have the money she had.
Well, he didn't really until he started getting national attention, and then people around the country started helping him with that fight, and that helped a lot.
Was it his driving around the truck and basically doing what you're doing? Is that
It was
people caught
doing
on?
town hall meetings and listening, and that's the point. That's the point. Even if, listen, I'm working as hard as I can to win on Tuesday, but if I'm not successful, my only wish would be that Paul Jaworski listens to the people again. I believe he's not here. I believe, you know, when I hear him say, we are out of the woods now, and that this is the greatest economy in the history of mankind, he has not talked to the same people that I've been talking to. He didn't see the fear on the faces of people who are afraid they're one paycheck away from losing their home, or whether or not they'll have a job next week, or how are they going to feed their families. You know, I see that frustration on the faces of people. This is my 5th town hall meeting, and I can tell you that I could see when people are talking that it's coming from their heart. They want to be heard. And I wish, as I said, if I'm not your congressman, that he would do this again and get connected